Hello. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Once again, my name is Florence Akman. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I own and run InfoPlace Canada, a Canadian immigration consulting firm that helps immigrants from around the world looking to immigrate to Canada. We have been doing lots of exciting things and lots of great things have been happening in our firm. We've been helping so many people realize their goals and dreams of immigrating to Canada. And today I want to give you one tip, especially if you're an international student, that would be very helpful in your application for study permit to come to Canada. So when you're applying for study permit to come to Canada, there's a lot of things that everybody is looking for. Everybody's running around trying to figure out. The biggest thing is always money. Always make sure that you have enough money with your application. You have enough ties as well to your home country and all of that. Your purpose of visit is clear, which is your study. But sometimes some things that a lot of people miss or don't know much about or spend enough time investigating or researching how to complete and put together as part of their application is actually the study plan. Study plan. Have you heard of it before? So some people call it letter of explanation, some people call it statement of purpose, whatever you call it. It is this letter that has to be included in your study permit application. Most study permit applications need a letter of explanation or a study plan. What is a study plan? Why is Canadian immigration asking us to put together a study plan? The thing is, most Canadian study permits applications don't actually have interviews. So that means that no officer is going to call you to interview you, to ask you questions about your application or anything like that. They are going to go by the information and the details that you've provided in the application, the documentation that you've provided, to determine if they're giving you a study permit or not. So because of this, every time you have to put together a study permit application, it is super important that you actually work on putting together a strong study plan. A study plan is an opportunity for you to talk to that visa officer. It's an opportunity to speak to that person who is going to be working on your application. But it's not just any letter. It has somewhat of a flow and structure to it, and key items and key information that should be included in your study plan. So today, I'm just going to be walking you through some of those key things that you should think about including in your study plan when you're applying for your study permit. Number one, the study permit should include a background about yourself. Your background, who are you, why are you coming to study in Canada, what have you been doing, what other previous education do you have, what previous work experience do you have. Again, it's very clear and concise is how you want this to be. So a background is always very important when you're drafting your study plan. A background about yourself, and all the applicants that are included in your application would be important. And I say that because sometimes we have our clients who are coming not just themselves, they're coming with their spouse, they're coming with their children. So this has to be part of that study plan as well. You also want to talk about your work experience and whatever it is that has led you to this place that you have determined that you'd like to come and study in Canada. So you want to talk about how that fits in, what has happened so far that has brought you to this place. So the second thing is, of course, the first thing is your education background, and then on the background, again, you have your work experience that you will be talking about. Once you've given the officer a really good background about yourself and who you are and why you're where you are today that you want to study in Canada, then the officer wants to know, wow, Florence, you've achieved so much in your life, you have done so much, and then you want to come study in Canada. Why do you want to come study in Canada? So this is where you're going to tell the officer why you chose to study in Canada. What was the reason? How did that come about? I know for a lot of students, studying in Canada is a pathway to many other things. It's a pathway to PR and all of that. But when an officer is looking at your application, I want you to know that the officer is going to be looking at your application to see if it all makes sense. Does the study plan make sense? Is it possible that you, who is a medical doctor, is coming to do a program in fashion designing? Does that make sense? Why are you coming? What led to this? Why did this happen? This is where you need to talk about the reason why you chose to study in Canada. And once you're done with those, there are some times where, in our experience and when we've worked with clients, there have been unique additions to an application. So maybe if an applicant was previously refused, if there were anything relating to a family member who is coming as well, that you want to explain why they're accompanying on that application. And when I talk about family members that are coming, we have had applicants for study permits who are able to come with their spouse. There's a video on how that happens, what you take into consideration that I have done as well, and you can check that out. For families who come with a whole family, we have so many complete families that have been approved. We just received our first approval of this year with a family of 5 being approved. So it's possible to come with your family, and you want to address and talk about why you made the decision not to come by yourself to study, but you decided to come with a family in your application as well. And then the next thing that you want to include and talk about in your study plan is, of course, your proof of funds. The officer always wants to know where your funds are coming from, who is giving you the money and all of that. There are different ways people come up with proof of funds. It could come from scholarships, it could come from a parent, it could come from a spouse, it could come from close family relatives, it could come from business investments, it could come as a gift, it could come as even a loan from a financial institution. All of these ways that you have raised your funds for your study permits needs to be addressed, needs to be explained in your study plan. The officer wants to know, remember what I said at the beginning, on these applications, no one is calling you for an interview most times. Very rarely do they ask you for additional documents to explain anything. So you have one shot, you have one chance to get it right, to put all the things that you need to have. So anything that has to do with your funds that you need to explain, how you raise the money and all of that, you want to be able to highlight that in your application for the officer. Especially if you're coming for a program that is more than 1 year and you maybe are showing just funds for 1 year, you want to really convince the officer as well that there's sufficient funds for your subsequent years of study in Canada. And then the next thing you want to talk about, of course, is your post-study plans. Now that you've told the officer why you chose Canada, the money you have to study here and everything, well, what are you going to do when you graduate? What are your plans when you graduate? What do your employment prospects look like? What do your entrepreneurial goals look like? Who are you going back to? What are you returning to? Where do you plan to go back to? This is the point and the time where you talk about that. Now, a lot of students always ask, Canada wants international students to become permanent residents and all of that. Why do they always ask if we're going to go back home? Under the Canadian immigration law, the government always wants to know that at the end of your studies, should you not have any legal pathway to transition to permanent residence, that you still do have a plan to return home. And in that plan to return home, it is so much better and stronger when that plan return home leads to a more solid and better career prospects for you as a result of you studying in Canada. So when you're thinking about it, when you're looking at making that decision and drafting that study plan, you want to be very detailed when it comes to those plans that you have at the end of your studies as well. And those plans don't just relate to just you, it also relates to you, that family member that is coming with you, especially our clients and applicants. If you're listening to me and you're coming with your spouse, it also relates to your spouse as well. Because again, the officer really wants to know that information as part of the application. And then when you talk about that, there are other things that, depending on your own unique profile, could be a great addition to the application. Previous travel history. If you've traveled to Canada before, you want to highlight that. If you've had visas to other countries, you want to highlight that. In a study plan, sometimes if you have been refused an application, you might want to mention and address concerns that are relating to that. So study plans sometimes sound like they're very similar, but every case that we've had, and we have had hundreds and hundreds of study permits applications that we've done, they're all unique. They're all very different. They all have a unique ring to them. There's something specific about them that you have to explain and add to make it strong. Sometimes you have to go in depth in convincing an officer, especially for those times when you're changing program of study. If you're changing program of study to something else that is different from what you've done, your background and career, you have to convince the officer on that letter that is your choice and that's something that you want to do. So a study plan is really, really critical to an application. There's so much to it, and this is one of the reasons why I created the study plan guide, which is now live on our website. You can download this guide. Contains a lot of the things that we already talked about, and even more to help you. We have had our clients who have been able to use this study plan guide, people who do love to do the applications themselves but just need some professional guide, who have been able to use it to complete their study permit application and do their study plans. Some of them even wrote back to me and said they did it in under 3 hours just using this. So it's the ultimate guide that helps you, at least that way. It helps you put in structure and in place the key things that an officer would want to see about your application. It gives you the opportunity to explain yourself. It gives you the opportunity to ensure that you're providing a complete package when you're submitting your application. So you know what? Click in the link in the description box and grab your own study plan guide right now. Don't miss out on it. Don't submit a study permit without using this study plan guide. Trust me, it would be very helpful in that process for you. It would help you draft a winning study plan. It would also help increase your chances of most likely getting an approval on that study permit application. Well, there's a study plan guide, but you know what's even better? I actually have a full detailed study plan course. You don't want to miss this course. We had tons and tons of success stories of clients who actually used our study plan courses last year to apply for study permits and are in Canada. So this study plan course is super detailed, has a lot of information that would help you to actually apply for your study permit. And it includes the study plan guide. So now if you feel like all you need is a study plan guide, then just get the study plan guide. But if you feel like I want the whole thing, I want to know how to package a winning study permit application. We've had single applicants use this course. I have had applicants with their family use this course. So it is something that I'm so proud of that my team and I put together. It honestly is a gift. It's a gift to anyone who is looking to come to Canada. And I want you to get that gift for yourself. Click on the link in bio, get to enroll in the course, or get the study plan guide. Whichever one you would want, it's there for you. Now, if you're like, Florence, I've heard you, all these things you're saying, I don't have time. I don't have time to do it. I need help, or I want to talk to a consultant one-on-one. I have a team of consultants who live and breathe this stuff. So you can actually book a consultation with one of my consultants using the link in the description box, or visit our website www.infoplacecanada.ca, book a consultation with them. Or if you're like, Florence, I don't even want a consultation. All these things you're saying, send an email to ask@infoplacecanada. Send us a DM on Instagram, reply to, leave a comment on here for me as well. And one of my teams will definitely pick it up and will walk you through the process of getting your application package. We do have a very detailed and a very transparent collaborative process when packaging application. And I would love to be a part of your success story as well. So I think this is my thank you this time. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching to this point, and I will see you on my next video.